got to move on to Avi Silber, another one of our returning presenters who was here last year, and we're delighted he can come back this year. As you may recall, he is the founder of this Secret Society of Science Songwriters, or 4SW, at his high school, which is the Northwest High School in Maryland. And so these students do things similar to what Dave was just describing, except as I understand it, it's almost all student driven. So the students are writing the songs as well as creating the videos, and Avi is more of an advisor, mentor, rather than the actual songwriter. So Avi teaches biology there, and he also, I think, just started teaching music technology there, which is super helpful for this club. And Avi, I hope that's going well for you. And I think his students have prepared a sort of a documentary about their process, which we're going to watch with him right now, if I have that right. So Avi, welcome back.
Thank you. So I uploaded. I also have a YouTube link here, so we can choose how we want to do that. Yeah, so I actually just got to watch it for the first time myself. The kids were editing it until this afternoon. But this was in the last week. So the first Thursday of every month, we do what's called a Challenge Thursday, where we make the video, where they choose a topic, they make the music, they write the lyrics, record the song, shoot the video, edit the video. I do participate sometimes for fun, and I choose which part I want to do. So for this one, I helped with the editing. So we called it Meta Challenge Thursday because the topic that I gave them was to make a music video explaining how we make music videos in a day. And specifically because I didn't know when else I was going to have time to prepare for this, because it's been a really wild year. I'm doing 3 preps this year. So I'm teaching music tech, molecular biotechnology, and chemistry, in addition to 4SW and running the Academy of Biotechnology at our school and a couple of other things. So it's been busy. Simultaneously with while they were running the Challenge Thursday, another subset of our video people in the club were doing like little interviews of club members to make like a longer form documentary around it. So that's what I've linked here, and I uploaded to the box. So I've got it for Windows Media Player, and so now it's sharing this. Is that right? Do you see it now?
Yep, can see it.
All right, and now the audio. How do I make it so the audio comes from this? I'm guessing that's in my, well, here, I'll press play. Tell me if you hear it. Did you hear that?
I did not hear it. Bob is giving you instructions in the chat window.
Fantastic. All right, lower left corner. Okay, so end share. And then he says for audio menu. So for my microphone, do I do same as system? Start new, share inside the share window, there's a checkbox. Okay, cool. Oh, share computer sound. Perfect. Awesome. Thank you very much, Bob. Are you guys hearing that now?
And I really wanted Ethan to put in the snares, because the snares are kind of like nice, but we don't have time for advanced snares right now.
And can you guys hear me right now as it's playing?
Yes.
Okay, so right here you can see this is our newest thing, the booth. You see, we just got that as the school funded for that for music technology. This is where we're in now. This is where we used to. This is like the little back office. Now we're back in the room that has the booth. The bookshelf my dad helped me build function as a desk. You can see our Forest W t-shirt, that's Meredith. She's our head lyricist. She trains all of our new lyricists. That's a Bo. He's a senior, he's our president now. You can see that we have very high budget screen mounters with wooden blocks. So when we're doing lyrics, they kind of gather around with a bunch of Chromebooks and they choose the song to move on. And so they're writing, as the beats being made, they're already writing out ideas that they then translate into lyrics. This is just one of our members doing something with Premiere. What you're seeing right now, by the way, this is the footage that's in the music video that you're going to see later. Christian told me he wanted to include the vocalist version at the beginning just to get people warmed up to it all. And I apologize, the footage is kind of shaky. I hadn't realized that when Christian volunteered to do the filming of this whole section that day, that he was much more to editing than his filming, so I forgot. So usually at a later point, they take the Chromebook out to wherever the music's being made, so they can start now writing lyrics to the beat. And you can see he's using Pro Tools and he's talking about it. We're gonna start having sound in a moment. We're gonna get into the actual interviews.
You edit out what you don't want us to. Right.
This is the song. So Damon is right here. I'm right here. He's on the purple. We're in the purple side. Right.
What do you do in this club in Forest W?
Well, you see, what I do is I make beats and I record people sometimes, and I write lyrics sometimes, and sometimes I do videos.
That's basically yeah. I put like a vocal page for vocal for like that. So that's the one more that says those are the vocal pages, like harmonizing and stuff. And then right here, I need to look them up right here. The green.
Do you have a certain title in the club? Like,
I help people.
okay.
I'm also president. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Of the club.
Yeah.
Not of the world. Yes.
Are you sure? Yeah.
I'm only president on weekends.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
From 9 to 5.
Yeah.
At night.
Hey.
Hello.
What's your name?
My name is Maddie.
What do you do in the club of Forest W?
Well, sometimes I help out with the beats, record sometimes, you know. It's fun. Make songs. Parasite. Yeah.
Bro, this is so good. I feel like Zaytoven.
Hello.
Hello,
What is your name?
Stefan.
What would you say that you do in the club?
Well, on Challenge Thursdays, I'm usually a writer and a vocalist, but outside of that, I'm mostly Silber's right-hand man. As the first vice president, I'm relaying emails. I'm mostly just talking to people who need to be talked. Our outside audience, other than the one in school, I'm letting them know about our events, when we have meetings, what we do, and every time a new video uploads. So if you follow our Facebook, Instagram, anything like that, you're basically
on the side there, you can see the 137, 150. That's how we keep track of what the tempo of the song is when we export the beat before it gets to Pro Tools. I think those are probably from beats from like 2 years ago when we used to use it, the whiteboard version. So I think it's fun to look at where the signs of work having been done. So this is when he was working on the beat
So we can
So we can make a song. Yeah. So we can make a song
I know it seems a lot, but don't be nervous when we pick locations and record a few shots in case of a mess. Be sure to get a lot. If you don't know, lyrics have a screen on hand. It's used to have a tripod so the camera can stand. Watch it on film and then unload all the footage so that editors made subtitles, or at least they should have. Now that they have the video.
It's okay, you got it.
What would you say is your favorite part of Forest W?
My favorite part is the other. It's the utter chaos, but in it the best way possible. Cause like on Challenge Thursdays we are chaotic and we go late, but we put all of our effort into making the best product ever. And I know that definitely kind of makes me smile on the inside. I don't smile on the outside.
Making music, being able to make a song about science and like making it go. Cause like I feel like when me and the Bo came in and made songs before W, like people were really getting hyped to it, you know. And we had the best beats and stuff like this. I feel like making it fun, more fun for everybody.
From what I hear, you're partially behind Forest W so far to date, the greatest song, which is 926.
Yeah, I helped out with the bass of the track because the Bo had the beat, and then I was like, I just spiced it up a little bit with the bass, you know. And we had a hook, but like it wasn't like good like that. And I think Silber or someone gave him that good. So I kind of
he's referring to. I made a show this last year, but we did a fundraiser video called 926. We do these Chipotle fundraisers because Chipotle used to give 50% of proceeds, and so we'd make a music video as a school advertisement for it. And it became like it went viral basically within our school. And to the point that like people would be walking down the hallway, like at the musical. I help out with the school musical, and in we had like an after thing in the media center for all the cast and crew. And someone put the song on, and all of a sudden, all the kids run in the middle of the media center and start jumping up and down. 926. And so what he's referring to was they had made this great song, but the date wasn't anywhere in it. And I was like, that needs to be the key part. The main thing you want people to know at the end of the ad is when they're coming. So the beginning, have something like 926, eating Chipotle on 926. And they put exactly that in, and that became it, which is funny. I feel like one of those producers who say like I gave them the name and then they went big, but it was, it wasn't, it was just that one small thing. I just thought it was funny.
What was there in the whole process?
My favorite part of Forest W, you know that light that people get in their eyes when they finally learn something that they know that they'll enjoy? Seeing that light and knowing that you're partially responsible for it, I would say that's my favorite part of the club.
And my favorite thing about him saying that is that when I first met Abo, he said he could never be a teacher and had no interest in teaching anyone anything anytime. And that sounds like the most teacher thing I've ever heard anyone say is what he just said.
Yeah, good to hear. Thank you very much.
Did I finesse that last part?
If I'm not mistaken, it's about to play the actual music video.
Yummy, yeah. Topic comes first. Vocalist record, got a video in store. That's the whole process of the topic we explore. What you ain't know before, it's a video of four. First we get the concept to watch, we progress, we whip up the beat. Using FL to make up the heat. We starve the work to our topic, we comb in the web. To get you smarter, increase that intellect as the song kicks in effect. We got the end game in the hops, we lock in the booth and we rockin'. Then we storyboard the video, we writing it all like a book. Just trying to figure out what's best to get you hooked. Then we gotta film at the end of it all, you know it'll be ill because we coming in and we kill. We coming in and we kill, we coming in and we kill. We coming in and we kill, we coming in and we kill. Topic comes first, written lyrics, then there's more. Vocalist record, got a video in store. That's the whole process of the topic we
to record. I know it seems a lot, but don't be nervous. We pick locations and record a few shots in case of a mess. Be sure to get a lot. If you don't know, lyrics have a screen on hand. It's useful to have a tripod so the camera can stand. Once you're done filming, then unload all the footage. The editors made subtitles, or at least they should have. Now they have videos that can line up the shots. So they had it all planned, or they'll be on the spot. They're gonna use markers to line up the sound, then add some imagery to help text get down. When it's done with really good flow, up onto YouTube is where it'll go.
So we had a bunch of new members that day, so you see them sitting behind me. I was kind of teaching them a bunch of the different edits. Cool. So does anyone have any questions?
Avi, this is Tiffany. I have a quick question. I know the answer to this, but a lot of people may not. You had mentioned to me at one point that you make your own beats, and that was one of the things that makes you different from some other people who are just using like a karaoke track. So you have basically a machine or an instrument that's hooked up to a computer that you can do that, correct?
Sort of correct. I mean, yes, it's completely correct that we make, with the exception of, we've done, I think, 3 or 4 covers, the vast majority of our songs, so about 99 songs, I think, that we've done that are original, maybe over 100 at this point. But it's not necessarily an instrument. So actually, I'll go back to sharing just so I can queue up some imagery here. So coming back to, okay. So here you can see, so yeah, he has a keyboard that's hooked up to the computer, but most of the time when we use the keyboard, it's more in terms of composition and coming up with riffs or notes. He's not recording the keyboard into the computer. So the software we're using here, we use 2 pieces of software for our sound. So one is FL Studio, which is really great for sequencing and for putting in composition, the beats, etc. So so Bo is incredibly talented. So is Mehdi. We have a lot of great producers. So they'll come up with the melody, come up with the drums, come up with they choose which instruments they want to use. I think we have over like 9,000 instruments to choose from at this point, because he's always finding new free packages of instruments. And with those, he composes all the different parts, or Mehdi compose. It's a group effort often. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so from that, as you guys mentioned, I am now teaching music technology, and the first, we're now in the 4th week of the school year. So we're finishing up with FL Studio in that class next week. So it's about 5 weeks. The first 5 weeks are devoted to theory and composition and this software. And then from there, we move into Pro Tools, which is more, after that, recording vocals. And if I'm going to record an instrument, I'm not usually going to record in FL Studio. I'll usually record it into Pro Tools. So in some of our videos, you'll see violins, or I think in one case we had a trumpet, and sometimes guitars. But usually the vast majority of our music is composed in this software.
Okay, thanks. That totally answered my question.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Yeah, so thanks, Avi. Just wanted to point out now, this is the period of general Q&A for STEM music videos. So your questions for Avi are very welcome, but also your questions for Dave and Gary, if you have those. So all are hopefully available and willing to answer your questions. And I hope all 3 of you are looking for the chat window to find those questions.
So Walter, I really like that question because there's a lot that goes into answering that. So you said, so Walter says, I missed the beginning, so ignore this if you've already addressed it. Do you have to take active steps to get knowledge transfer from one generation of students to the next? So one of the things that made this club incredibly draining and incredibly taxing for me as a sponsor was exactly that, not even between generations. In the first couple of years of the club, I would find myself training a student one-on-one after school, or even one-on-three, in any number of the steps. And there's a lot of them, right? They're doing the research, they're writing the lyrics, they're using Pro Tools to record, using FL Studio to make instrumentals. There's vocal skills, there's filming, there's editing. The thing that was the most taxing I found was the producing, so making the beats, and the filming. Because, you know, many people sing in their shower. Every kid wants to be the next big rapper, so it hasn't been that hard to find vocalists. And similarly, a lot of people write poetry. It's not that hard to find lyricists. And in a school, and we have a pretty good school system, pretty good curriculum. We have a lot of good students that are good at doing the research and finding the content. And a lot of kids use their cameras all the time. So really it came down to editing and producing as the main things that took a lot of time to teach people. And what I found was there was a huge amount of attrition. I'd spend a lot of time teaching a handful of kids, and then they leave. And I'd feel like I'd spent a lot of time and it had gone down the drain. I wouldn't say to waste, because now they have this skill and they're going to go off and do other things. But it was a lot of time I spent that I'm now not getting back. So it was actually one of my evaluation years where they asked me, what are some of your next career steps? And I said that I'd really like to be able to make this a class so that I could, there'd be a little bit more, structure is not the right word, a little more consistency in terms of when people enroll, they'll definitely be set to it. Because then if I have a class of 25, for instance, if one of those kids joins the club, that's now a kid that can do all of the skills, because I teach audio and video and music tech. By the end of first semester, each student has made their own music video. And so with that in mind, that in itself has made me feel a lot more calm in terms of the sustainability of the skills. However, even before the class had ended, a lot of the students started taking it upon themselves to recruit their own proteges, if you will. So for example, you saw Bo. Bo was the kid, he's currently president. And he has probably about half of the kids you saw in this video were his friends that he's over time brought into the club. The vocalist on the chorus, Damon, this is his first, he only started singing on any of our songs as of last April, I think. And now he loves singing. He's in the studio every day. Christian just started editing at the end of last year and now wants to edit everything. And so he edited this documentary. So as it starts to become a more established thing that people are like, oh, I can do this, or I want to do this. More people are joining, more people are invested. And now they're making them for others. So almost every club in the school has asked one of the kids at some point to help them make a music video for their Chipotle fundraisers. So we had there was a moment last year where I think almost every week there was a different Chipotle fundraiser music video. Not even necessarily put on by 4SW kids, but many times facilitated. So like the other kids would come up with their song or their lyrics, and then 4SW kids would help them run the studio. But they would do the editing and all that stuff. So it's, the bottom line is it's much like, I guess a good way, it's like succession, ecological succession, where once you have enough soil, and in this case, once you have a base of culture in the school, it will grow itself. It becomes much easier for the roots to take place. Does that answer your question, Walter? Awesome. Are there other questions for me or any of the other panelists?
So we have for all three presenters, Gary, Dave, and Avi, what are mistakes to avoid when making your videos?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
You know, it's hard to answer that question because what we've seen are so many different types of videos for a number of different purposes. I think, at least in my experience, the worst mistake is not giving enough structure to the kids and not giving them the resources. Now, my students are, they're not music students, they're not theater students, so this is a totally new thing for them. And sometimes doing this as a group exercise removes anxiety among students, as opposed to making each student do an individual video. Anyway, those are just some thoughts.
Yeah, from my perspective, I would say just don't be afraid to put yourself out there. From the very first video to the most recent one we've done, I think every video you create, you always see something you want to fix, and you just keep that in mind for next time, so you can just keep on building off your previous success. But I would really just say, just don't be afraid to put yourself out there and just keep making changes from where you are.
This is going to be kind of a backwards response. I'd say the biggest mistake is to not finish. So I think one of the reasons Challenge Thursdays have taken such a hold in the club is for a long time we didn't finish projects. For the first year and a half, there were only about 2 or 3 songs we finished. So finally, the president at the time and I came up with this idea for Challenge Thursdays, just to make sure that we had something at the end of the day. And so that once a month, we would be sure that we'd have a whole music video at the end of the day, no matter what. We weren't going to give up. It was going to be a complete one. As good as it was or as bad as it was going to be done. And in the process, things have gotten more efficient. People gained more confidence. It became something that people would come and try out the club for and enjoy. And so not finishing things and not completing things definitely was a huge impediment for a long time. So I think just the feeling of having completed something is crucial to the growth here. But in terms of something that is a detriment to videos in general, I found lighting is a huge issue, making sure you have good lighting. And in terms of having good footage for editing, make sure that if you're using multiple sources that you have the same frame rate. Because what I found is if your frame rate is different between a bunch of different sources, then the rendering in any editing software is really, really, really hampered. And so that was a early thing we had to figure out, was to make sure that we were using consistent technology and consistent settings.
Yeah, I guess I would probably like to add in on that too. If you're doing a video kind of in the style that we're doing, we do multiple takes, probably at least 2, 3, 4 takes of every scene or everything that you see to get the best quality. Because if one kid falls out of place, it might ruin that entire shot. So we do the same thing over quite a few times. And once you have a lot of footage to work with, it kind of helps you out a bit.
I wanted to say something about microphones. I think Bill talked about snowball mics, and that's a good studio mic. We do a lot of outside recording, and we use a H4n Zoom mic. It's a recording quality mic, but it's digital and it's completely portable. So, you can use it outside and not worry about it at all. They're about $250 or so, so they're quite reasonably priced.
Can I ask a question? I'm wondering, so some of us like me don't really have any experience making videos, but I understand that storyboarding is a thing in the video world. For all of you, do you or your students do a lot of storyboarding to sketch out the overall flow of the video? If not, why not?
Not as much as I would like. They do sometimes, and when they do, it's very good. The reason we don't often do it is because Challenge Thursdays are fast, and a lot of the things that in Challenge Thursday are happening simultaneously. So while the beat's being made, the lyric idea is already coming together. While the recording is being made, the lyrics are now being put into subtitles in the video. While the recording is being mixed, they're out filming their recording, and hopefully they know their lyrics by now, because that's something that can come up. If they don't know their lyrics yet, their mouthing isn't matching it. So ideally, we would need to have people making imagery or making animations or things to fill in at certain points during the storyboards. But usually what ends up happening is they take a long time on the song or a long time on the filming, and we end up not having a whole lot of time for the editing. So it's gotten down to now, I think we edit the videos together in like 20, 30 minutes, because at this point it's already like 7 or 8. And so as a result, even if we had a storyboard for it, we're not usually always able to follow it. We do this thing called multicam, where we see all the different footage at once. There's a lot of different techniques, but there's this thing called pluralize that will sync up all the footage with the audio. So assuming the music was playing while we were shooting the video, it'll sync up all the pieces of footage that we have with all the pieces of audio we have. And so now it's just a question with multicam of selecting which piece of footage you want to cut to at any different moment. And so that makes the editing happen way faster. But it totally takes, that's not really something that functions alongside storyboarding that well.
I would say from my perspective, for the really important math content that we're trying to present, we start with that and we say, all right, this is going to be a chalkboard scene where we have it written out and explain things when necessary. So that's where we start, because that's really the focus of the videos, to teach the math. From there, then we'll try to get a classroom scene of kids, maybe to kind of tell a story. And then the third part of that is all the random parts in the song where we don't know what to do. Really, the kids have come up with a lot of great ideas. For us, at least, we'll say, well, we got this, we need some filler. And the kids like, how about we sit on the stairs? How about we do this move? So the kids actually do have some creativity and some choices. But really, we focus on the math content first, then kind of the story part of it for the big classroom scenes, and the kids help us out with all the fun filler stuff.
Most of the videos that I make don't really have video. The Rat Snake video, I wrote the song, I recorded the song, and then I fit the video to the song. And so I suppose you could call that storyboarding, but I think of it in the movie sense, where you got a wall with 85 different pieces of paper on it, and I certainly don't do anything like that. I can't even call myself a dilettante video maker compared to these folks.
Fair enough. All right. Thank you, Avi, Gary, and Dave.